Then the final part of the ceremony, the
Silence. All stand and remain standing until the conclusion of the reading of the proclamation. Ladies and gentlemen, the proclamation. All persons having any business before this honourable court, please draw nigh, give your attendance, and you shall be heard. God save the Queen.
Please be seated. Admission of lawyers. Stephen Young Jun An.
May it please the Court, I move that Stephen Young Jun An be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Stephen Young Jun An be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Sarah Jin May Bow.
May it please the Court, I move that Sarah Jin May Bow be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Sarah Jin May Bow be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
William James Cramond.
May it please the Court, I move that William James Cramond be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let William James Cramond be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Samantha Deepika Da Costa.
May it please the Court, I move that Samantha Deepika Da Costa be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Samantha Deepika Da Costa be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Liam Frederick Fairgrave.
May it please the Court, I move that Liam Frederick Fairgrave be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Liam Frederick Fairgrave be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Shika Kusamita Hegde.
May it please the Court, I move that Shika Kusamita Hegde be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Shika Kusamita Hegde be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Samaya Khan.
May it please the Court, I move that my wife, Sumaya Khan, be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Samaya Khan be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Alfred Shek Kwan Lee.
May it please the Court, I move that Alfred Shek Kwan Lee be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Alfred Shek Kwan Lee be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Louise G. Ting Lin.
May it please the Court, I move that my sister Louise G. Taylor be admitted as a lawyer to this honourable court.
Let Louise G. Ting Lin be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Rachel Louise McInerney.
May it please the Court, I move that Rachel Louise McInerney be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Rachel Louise McInerney be admitted as the lawyer of this court.
Luke Leonard Moran.
May it please the Court, I move that Luke Leonard Moran be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Luke Leonard Moran be admitted as the lawyer of this court.
Lily Margaret O'Keefe.
May it please the Court, I move that Lily Margaret O'Keefe be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Lily Margaret O'Keefe be admitted as the lawyer of this court.
Luke James Roper.
May it please the Court, I move that Luke James Roper be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Luke James Roper be admitted as the lawyer of this court.
Nicholas Thomas Tataro.
May it please the Court, I move that Nicholas Thomas Tataro be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Nicholas Thomas Tataro be admitted as the lawyer of this court.
Isabel Knockmin Tuvo.
May it please the Court, I move that my sister Isabel Vo be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Isabel Vo be admitted as the lawyer of this court. It will be necessary for the purpose of swearing an oath or making a declaration that all those being admitted today stand up but remain in their current places. Could all admittees please stand up?
Stephen Young Jun An. Sarah Jin May Bow. William James Cramond. Samantha Deepika Da Costa. Liam Frederick Fairgrave. Shika Kusamita Hegde. Samaya Khan. Alfred Shek Kwan Lee, Louise G. Ting Lin, Rachel Louise McInerney, Luke Leonard Moran, Lily Margaret O'Keefe, Luke James Roper, Nicholas Thomas Chattaro, Isabel Vo. Do you severally swear or declare and affirm that you will truly and honestly conduct yourselves in the practice of a lawyer of the Supreme Court of New South Wales, and that you will faithfully serve as such in the administration of the laws and usages of this state according to the best of your knowledge, skill and ability? Would you please say, "So help me God," or "I do"? Would you please resume your seats?
Now that the formal part of the proceedings has ended, I'd like to welcome you to the Supreme Court of New South Wales. Present with me on the bench today, to my right is Justice Bell, who is the President of the Court of Appeal, and to my left, Justice Fullerton, who is the Judge of the Common Law Division. Together, in the exercise of the Court's jurisdiction, we have admitted you to practice. Today you've made a serious commitment. However, it's also a day for celebration. But I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. As we celebrate your admission to the legal profession, I recognise the role which law played in the traditional society of Australia's First Nation peoples, the first legal system of our country. I acknowledge that our laws fail to recognise the cultural heritage and rights of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people for many decades, and the dispossession and disempowerment that this has caused. As I said, today you've made a serious commitment, but it's also a day for celebration. Your admission marks the culmination of your legal studies to date, when you can look back with pride and relief on those caffeine-fuelled nights spent trying to memorise your carefully tabbed and annotated case summaries with an aid of an entire rainbow of highlighters, the many hours in lectures spent analysing carbolic smoke balls, eggshell skulls and snails in bottles, and just when you thought your student days were over, a few more months spent squeezing in PLT assessments. There can be no doubt that you've all worked incredibly hard to get here. For many of you, these achievements would not have been possible without the support of your family and friends, some of whom are here with you today and others watching along on the live stream. They may have been through the seemingly endless years of study and have also, no doubt, been on the receiving end of your finely polished skills of argument and persuasion. Today is also a day for them to share in your success. I do hope you take the time to thank them for their support. In participating in this ceremony today, you'll become part of a tradition which dates back to the 12th century, when it first became common for those representing others before courts to swear an oath before being allowed to practice. The first admission ceremony in this court was held almost 200 years ago in 1824. Testament to the enduring nature of these ceremonies, young lawyers, just like you, were admitted even during the midst of the Spanish flu and 2 world wars. You have made a commitment to uphold the rule of law, to administer the law competently and with honesty and integrity, as have centuries of lawyers before you. It is out of respect for this long history that we make your admission to the legal profession with the swearing of oaths or making of affirmations, and for that matter, our somewhat strange choice of fashion. Around Christmas time a few years ago, one young member of the audience asked if we were doing Santa photos after the ceremony. I was very sorry to disappoint him. But despite this time-honoured tradition, last year the Supreme Court welcomed new cohorts of lawyers into the profession by a virtual ceremony for the first time. Now that we are back in person, we are pleased to be able to continue to stream this ceremony for those unable to join us. But the changes we have made in the past year reflect the agility and dedication of the profession you are entering to delivering justice, even if it has to be done outside a bricks and mortar courtroom. Throughout history, our profession has proved itself adept at change, and never more so than now. We transitioned last year to a virtual system of justice at a previously unimaginable speed. Dining tables became the new bar tables, family dogs the new courtroom security, and interrupting children the now new rowdy members of the public. This transformation was only possible due to the commitment of the profession to ensuring that the wheels of justice continue to turn. That is something for which we should all be immensely proud. Of course, this is not the only change that has occurred in the legal profession. For almost 100 years after the first admission ceremony was held in New South Wales, women were not allowed to be admitted into the profession. A century later, in this state today, more than half of the solicitors with a practising certificate are women, an increasing large proportion of members of the bar are female, and many of the most senior positions in the law are held by women, including the Chief Justice of Australia and the Chief Justices of Victoria, Queensland and the Australian Capital Territory. The profession is more diverse than ever before, and this is something we should celebrate. Of course, there is still a long way to go in improving the diversity of our profession. Unfortunately, I'm the first to admit there are more people that look like me in senior positions in law than look like anyone else in the community. Systemic barriers, inappropriate workplace behaviour and prejudices continue to hinder women and those from diverse cultural and socio-economic backgrounds from fully and equally participating in the legal profession. It is important that this change. Our profession is only so strong as it is diverse. Public confidence in our legal system is founded on the profession serving the entire community, rich or poor, privileged or vulnerable. An inclusive profession also strengthens access to justice by providing culturally and gender-sensitive services. No one, irrespective of their gender, sexual orientation, ethnicity, religion, disability or socio-economic background should be left out or left behind from pursuing a legal career in the law, much less from enforcing their legal rights. But when we look back at how far we have come, I'm confident that these barriers can also be overcome. This is a period of great change in the legal profession. There is an increasing recognition that more must be done to ensure all lawyers have a safe workplace, free from sexual harassment, discrimination and bullying. The normalisation of working from home will make the profession more family-friendly long after the pandemic passes, and recent changes to the Legal Services Award will better protect the well-being of graduate lawyers. I believe the pace and scale of this change is in fact a cause for great hope. You're becoming lawyers at a time like no other. Our world is reeling from the turmoil of a pandemic which has generated fear and uncertainty, destroyed livelihoods and curtailed movements across suburbs, states and countries. Just a few hours ago, we saw that even in this country, in the state of Victoria, a new lockdown has been imposed. But despite the crisis, the rule of law has not been suspended. In fact, it is more important than ever. History has taught us that human rights are at their most vulnerable in times of crisis. When significant decisions are necessarily made with great speed and without precedent, parliamentary sessions are suspended and unprecedented powers are given to executive governments and their agencies, the role of lawyers in upholding the rule of law is more crucial than ever. The pandemic has raised complex legal issues that strike the heart of our democracy and civil liberties. How do we balance public health and the right to freedom of assembly? How do we ensure expanded police powers are used in such a way as to protect the community? How do we enable those fleeing persecution to exercise their rights to seek asylum in the face of travel bans and border closures? As lawyers, the commitment you have made today to uphold the rule of law is critical to ensuring that emergency measures balance public health considerations and civil liberties. The balance can only be struck in an environment of contestation and scrutiny by lawyers bringing matters before the courts. Our profession plays an essential role in ensuring that emergency measures are transparent, proportionate and applied in a non-discriminatory manner. At the same time, it is more important than ever that we connect the law with its profound human implications. The impact of the law on our lives has never been so obviously pronounced. Lockdowns, border closures and travel bans necessarily impact on our freedom of movement and in the process our access to and enjoyment of many other rights. As lawyers, we have a special responsibility to uphold the rule of law by ensuring that the pandemic does not undermine access to justice. As a profession, we must be vigilant in protecting the rights and dignities of those disproportionately affected by the emergency measures. We must ensure that even the most vulnerable have access to quality legal representation and to the full benefit of the law. We do this when we use our legal training to help vulnerable workers navigate their employment rights in times of illness, when we use commercial law as a tool to lighten the pressures on small businesses devastated by the restrictions, and when we help survivors of domestic violence in lockdown with abusive partners access legal services. Our commitment to access to justice requires us to be particularly astute to the injustices facing Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities. The Black Lives Matter movement has brought the racism, inequality and abuses of power that have haunted our nation for so long to the forefront of public consciousness. Last year marked 250 years since Captain Cook first landed in Australia. Despite this significant passage of time, the Black Lives Matter movement has exposed that our criminal justice system in the past has been, and to some extent still remains, a tool of injustice for Indigenous Australians, who are one of the most incarcerated people in the world. The Black Lives Matter and also the Me Too movements present a challenge for our profession to ensure that calls for change do not pass without systemic reforms. As lawyers, we are called upon to ensure that our justice system is in fact just for all. This happens when we use our legal training to challenge narratives which sustain injustice, use our advocacy skills to defend unpopular causes or clients, whether outside or inside the courtroom, and use our legal knowledge to educate others and better inform public debate. As a member of the legal profession, you are now in a position of great privilege. You will play a trusted role in some of the most testing times in the lives of others. You will be a confidant, an advisor and an advocate to many. As lawyers, we have a responsibility to use our training and knowledge as a tool of change. The past year has shown us there is much for us to defend and strengthen, undo and remake. As the newest members of our profession, you have an unparalleled opportunity to be part of this change for the better. Perhaps many of you would have chosen to study law because you wanted to promote human rights, to reform policy or to advocate for the most vulnerable. I urge you today to remember why you decided to study law all those years ago. Irrespective of whether you practice at the bar, in a commercial firm, a community legal centre, in a government department or pursue a career outside the law altogether, I encourage you to use your legal knowledge and capacity for critical thinking for the public good. Today you have joined a profession whose support and collegiality will prove invaluable. It is easy to feel isolated, particularly when you're working from home, but even otherwise. Remember, however, that you are not working alone. Although you might find it hard to believe, I was admitted quite a long time ago. I lost my first case, and I lost many more after that. Throughout my 35 years in practice, I could always count on other barristers on my floor to share my disappointment at the unfairness of the verdict, the sly tactics of opposing counsel, and most often, I regret to say, the obtuseness of the judge or judges before whom I was appearing. Now, I must put on record that I don't include either of my fellow judges on the bench in that comment. Firstly, I didn't appear before either of them, and secondly, it wouldn't apply in any event. Finally, too many lawyers still feel there is a stigma in talking about their mental health. Looking after your mental health is not something to be ashamed of. There will be times in your career when your work weighs on you to an unhealthy degree, when you feel disheartened or overwhelmed. When this happens, you should take the time to turn to the enduring things in your life, like your family, partners or friends. On behalf of all the judges of the Supreme Court, I once again congratulate you on your admission and welcome you to the legal profession. The Court will now adjourn.
All stand. This honourable court is now adjourned. God save the Queen.